As a former middle school teacher, I'm not used to people quieting down that quickly. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the 2026 Budget Address. My name is Rebecca Naker. I am honored to be your City Council President, and today to serve as your MC. As we kick off today's program, please help me welcome Sergeant Major James Kirkland and students from Como Senior High School's Marine Corps JROTC for the presentation of colors. Please rise and stay standing if you're able.
Whoa! White! 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 Ho! Ho! Care! Colors! Red! Cut! Please! Colors!
It's now my honor to welcome Mahogany Robinson and Rosalind Bailey from Communication to perform the national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, those bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Or colors. Red, cut, white tie, white, oh, white.
Please be seated. And thank you again to our amazing students from the JROTC at Como Senior High School and from our awesome performers from Communication. Let's give them another round of applause. So thank you again for joining us today. I want to extend a special thanks to the distinguished guests who have joined us. First of all, to my colleagues on the St. Paul City Council, thank you for being here. To Mayor Carter, Deputy Mayor Tincher, to all of our department leads, to our elected officials from so many different bodies of government with whom we work so closely, St. Paul School Board, Ramsey County, State of Minnesota, the Met Council, the Office of Representative Betty McCollum. Thank you all so much for being here. And can I please ask all of our elected and appointed officials to please stand and be recognized. And all of you, our community leaders, our community members who have joined us here today, who are watching at home, and who are not just going to be with us today, but with us over the months to come as we start this session. Today, we begin the task of crafting our city budget for 2020. This is one of our most important responsibilities, and it's one that my council colleagues and I take very seriously. You know, we often say that a budget is a reflection of our values, and that's true. But our budget is also a reflection of and a response to the particular moment in history in which we find ourselves. And as we begin this year's budget process, we are in quite a moment. We are in a moment of intense community pain and mourning. We are at a moment when the need to invest in our community assets and our community safety and our community members has never been more clear. And we are at a moment when trust is at an all-time low. Trust in our laws, our government, our educational institutions, our media, our science, and our own ability as a society to solve our most wicked and pernicious problems. And this trust is more important than ever right now, because it's what holds our cities together. It's literally the glue that connects our community. And our cities right now are under scrutiny, under threat, and in some cases, quite literally, under siege by our own government. When cities are threatened, our democracy is threatened, because as we all know in this room, cities are where democracy gets real, right? In a city, government is not just by, for, and of the people. Government is running into the people at Target on a Sunday morning when you're still in your sweatpants. Or so I've been told. When we lose trust in one another, our cities are weakened. And when our cities are weakened, power flows up and away from us, the people. And there are many folks, some more orange than others, who are eager to grab that power and use it for their own ends. I'm not okay with that. Our city council is not okay with that. Our mayor is not okay with that. Our department leads are not okay with that. I don't think a single person in this room is okay with that, and we cannot stop saying so. These are daunting challenges. But in St. Paul, one of the things I love best about our city is we don't get daunted, we get motivated. And I can tell you that our city council is more motivated than ever to use this year's budget process to rebuild that trust and strengthen our city. And we can do that both by what our budget looks like and how we create it. Our budget has to meet the basic needs of our community for affordable housing, good jobs, safe and clean parks and rec centers and libraries, thriving small businesses, streets and bike lanes that are well maintained. We need public health measures to combat the opioid crisis, strong staffing in our police and fire departments, and well-funded district councils to make sure that our neighbors can be engaged. We need to double down on downtown revitalization and economic development here in the Midway and every corner of our city. And we need to heed the call from our neighbors and businesses to keep taxes as low as possible. As budgets are getting tighter for every family, every senior citizen on a fixed income, every college student facing down debt, our budgets need to be tight too. And how we create the budget is just as important as what's in it if we want to rebuild that trust. As council president, I am committed to running a budget process that is inclusive, transparent, and reliable. As we consider the mayor's budget proposal today, we will listen, really listen to what we are hearing from our community members, both at our community budget event on September 16th and throughout the budget process until we adopt the budget in December. We will pass a final budget on time and with clarity about what's in it and what is not. We will communicate clearly and directly with the mayor, the administration, and the public throughout the process. That's how we build a budget that also rebuilds trust. I am very grateful to be on this journey with extremely experienced and talented colleagues. Councilmember Bowie, who is leading our work on public safety, Councilmember Jost, who is chairing our library board and is also our in-house structural engineer, very convenient to have on a city council. Councilmember Yang, Council Vice President Kim, who are chairing our Budget and Finance Committee and who will be steering the budget process. Chair Johnson, who is leading on housing as the chair of our Housing and Redevelopment Authority. And I want to extend a special thanks to our newest council member, Councilmember Molly Coleman, who showed up ready to work on day one and who has already proven herself to be an extremely dedicated and courageous colleague. Together, I believe we can pass a budget that is both responsible and responsive, effective and efficient, that shows care for our community today and the people that we don't even know yet who are going to call our community home in the future. And we are fortunate to have an incredible partner in this work, Mayor Melvin Carter, a tireless champion for our city and a brave leader in this difficult moment. Now, please help me welcome Mayor Carter to deliver the 2026 budget address.
Good morning. Thank you for joining us today. I appreciate you taking the time and exerting the energy to be a part of our citywide discussion about where we're going to go from this difficult moment. I want to thank you, Council President Naker, for that generous introduction. I'm very proud to call you my colleague and my friend, and very proud for the opportunity to work alongside 7 incredibly gifted, incredibly talented, incredibly compassionate and capable women who help lead our community forward into the future. I also have to acknowledge my team. I share with folks all the time that I am fortunate to have an incredible team of individuals that I get to work next to. When I go to schools, when I go visit young folks and they say, what does a mayor do? What I always tell them is that my job is to help the helpers, that the people in community who make sure that our libraries are running, that the people in community who plow our streets and fill our potholes, the people in community who run in when we have our most challenging moments in community, they all deserve to have the things that they need to do their job well on all of our behalf. And we thank each and every one of you who stands in the gap, who works in the city government, who serves in public service. Please join me in a round of applause for all of the public servants in this room. The council president hit on it well. Our nation is facing right now deep division that threatens the progress that our communities need. Right now, more than ever, we have to rise above those things that separate us and focus when we see the world in war, in crisis, and in division. When we see Washington, D.C. in war, in crisis, and division. And even when we look at our own state capital and see it gripped too often by crisis, division, and inaction in the face of challenge. Right now is the time that we must continue our focus on building a city that works for all of us. Cities exist because someone decided at some point that we can do this better. We can do this stronger. We can do this easier. We can do this safer. We can do this more effectively and more efficiently if we do it together. That's what a city is. And that's what we are insistent on our city being into the future. Now is our time to lead with clarity, to act with purpose, and to show what's possible when we stand together against all of the forces that work every day to try to pull us apart. I have the great honor and privilege of serving as mayor of the city of St. Paul. It's the community that raised my grandparents. It's the community that raised my parents. It's the community that's raised me, and it's the community that is currently raising our children. I approach this role with humility, knowing that it's impossible for any one person to have all the answers. I'm sure Mayor Coleman can attest from your time in office that in a city of 300,000 plus people, something's going to happen every day that you didn't major in. Our success depends on building a team that works together and serves our entire city with unity and purpose. That team is our staff. That team is our partners. That team is our residents. That team is our advocacy community. That team is a broad team in St. Paul. That team in my life is captained and chaired and coached and in some ways owned by the love of my life, Dr. Sakina Futrell Carter. It's wonderful to see you. Thank you so much for your leadership. I have to acknowledge my parents, former Ramsey County Commissioner, current Met Council member Tony Carter, and retired St. Paul Sergeant Melvin Carter, who's in this space with us today. Thank you. Our Deputy Mayor, Jamie Tincher, who is an absolute force of nature with your fingerprints on every aspect of everything that this administration has faced. I often share with folks, and you'll hear it in this speech, that we've played over the last 8 years on the planet, and certainly right here in our community, a sort of game of crisis bingo that has challenged us, that has stretched us, and that has grown us. You've been there every single step along the way. Thank you very much for your leadership, Deputy Mayor. And all of you, I want to thank you for being here. You know, people ask me how hard this job is, and I tell them it's challenging. It challenges me to the core every single day. But the thing is that there is always someone ready. You know, as you mentioned, bumping into folks at Target or at the farmer's market or wherever that is, there's always someone ready to support, to say, hey, great job, to say, hey, we're with you, or to say, hey, I want to help. You are a resting place. You are our strength, and you are the secret sauce to what moves St. Paul into the future. We gather today at Allianz Field. We gather today at United Village because this place represents how we build forward. A year-round neighborhood with housing, retail, restaurants, and inclusive public spaces, an economic engine and cultural hub that reconnects our corridor. I have to say an enormous thank you to Dr. McGuire and the Allianz Field team for welcoming St. Paul into this space and ensuring this redevelopment will be done right. This redevelopment, United Village, it represents our commitment to renewal, to sustainability, and to community-centered growth. What once was a contaminated bus barn and a deteriorating shopping center is becoming a vibrant, mixed-use neighborhood anchored right here by Allianz Field. This project is more than construction, it's reclamation. By cleaning up decades of environmental damage, we've transformed a burden into an asset for our entire city, paving the way for healthier neighborhoods and a stronger future. United Village sets a new standard for sustainable urban development. From stormwater systems that reuse rainwater to new parks, playgrounds, and inclusive public spaces, to iconic public art like the loon that stands over us just a couple of steps away. This is a model of what modern city building can be. This is a year-round destination, an economic engine with hundreds of millions in investment, jobs, shops, restaurants, and a hotel. It's a cultural hub and a gathering place. All of those things right here in the Midway. This is the future of St. Paul. It's sustainable, vibrant, and inclusive. and we're excited to be here. Budgets are where values meet reality. We began this year facing a $23 million deficit and unjust federal funding cuts. I've shared with our team and I've shared with many of you that this is a challenging budget moment, one of the most challenging I've ever had to engage. We're met between sort of a rock and a hard place. On one hand, we have upward pressures on all of our costs, all of our expenses, the same ones that impact all of our households, all of our businesses, impact our city. Payroll costs, energy costs, fuel costs, all of the major inputs that are required to run a city, those costs are moving up. On the other hand, we have downward pressures on all of our revenues. Council President Naker well articulated the challenges with regard to adding to our tax base that are a must. We live in an era where we see every single day some fresh, often unjust, likely unconstitutional threats of funding cuts coming from Washington, D.C. And the third force is coming from us. You know, there's not a year as mayor, there's not a year that I've spent in City Hall that I haven't had an opportunity to be frustrated by leaders in City Hall who 30 years ago decided to kick a can down the road instead of having a tough conversation with us about what is possible and what's sustainable. We will not repeat those mistakes. Our 2026 budget was built around the goals of keeping our levy as low as possible, ensuring that we're able to keep our promises to our employees, and building the road upward from that rock and hard place we just described. This budget totals $887 million with a general fund of $405 million. It proposes a 5.3% increase in our tax levy, which represents about $107 a year or $9 a month on a median value home. We've lived through these converging pressures, the rising costs, the declining revenues, and this historic inflection point that we know that we're at. Instead of repeating the mistakes of the past, we are intent on doing the opposite. This budget reduces spending across city government. It strategically leverages vacancies, and it avoids layoffs of city staff, while still finding ways to ease the cost of living for our residents. There are many things that we must do and that we must continue to do to make this budget work for our community, and frankly, more importantly, to ensure that our city works for our community. This is how we balance the books while keeping our city moving forward. Every budget address I've given, every State of the City address I've given, every neighborhood meet and greet we've done, and every one of you who I've bumped into in Target has had to listen to me say for the last 8 years that our top job is public safety. It's our number one job. It's the foundation for every ambition we hold as a city. From the beginning, we advanced our community-first public safety framework because we've always known that our police officers, our firefighters, our paramedics serve with dignity and heroism in our community, and that we've known that we cannot expect them to do the job on their own. So when we saw homicides spike nationwide in the shadow of the pandemic, we doubled down with urgency on our community-first public safety infrastructure. We said then, in this speech 2 years ago, that we would make St. Paul the best place to find opportunity and a second chance, and the worst place to fire a gun. And we're making good on that promise. Homicides today in our city are on pace for a 10-year low. Shots fired, aggregated assaults are down double digits. NPR ran a national news story about how one city defied all the trends on all other major cities around the country on auto thefts. And our non-fatal shooting unit, which I announced in that speech 2 years ago, has tripled our clearance rate from just over 20% to more than 70%. That's critical, because one of the things that we know about gun violence is that it's not in St. Paul or really any city. It's not that there are a whole bunch of people running around shooting. It's that there's a couple of people who shoot multiple times. So when our non-fatal shootings unit catches somebody in June, that means they're not shooting in our community in July. When our Office of Neighborhood Safety interacts with the family, that means we're able to bring stability in a place that may have been unstable before that. Our wraparound services that we've engaged through Project Peace have reduced non-fatal shootings in our city to just 39 as of July 2025, representing a significant and historic decrease in our city. The spirit of our officers, of our firefighters, of our first responders and paramedics is shown, whether they're serving hot dogs to a child in a rec center or racing into the scene of an active shooter scenario to ensure that we protect and serve the lives of our residents. Our job, our commitment, is to build that broader community first team around them to ensure that they never have to do it alone. But listen, even as violent crime has fallen dramatically, a new crisis has escalated. Fentanyl, our opioid epidemic. It's the greatest drug crisis of our lifetimes. It fuels unsustainable quality of life challenges downtown and throughout our neighborhood corridors. Overdoses now outnumber car crashes. Families are being torn apart, and our public spaces are strained. Just as we change the conditions that once made St. Paul a place that folks thought they could fire a gun, we must now apply that same community first logic to our fentanyl crisis. That means going all in together to make St. Paul a great place to get clean, recover, and rebuild, and the wrong place to come and sell opioids. This budget invests $1 million in a citywide opioid response intervention, expanding harm reduction, eliminating stigma, increasing access to treatment, and equipping our first responders. It strengthens our Heart and Familiar Faces teams, who meet unsheltered neighbors where they are, responding with humanity while restoring dignity and stability to our corridors. This is the next evolution of our public safety work, building on our progress against gun violence while facing today's crisis with the same urgency and discipline. Every dollar in this budget carries that same commitment to safety, to opportunity, to dignity for every person in our city, and to building forward, not trying to figure out how to get back to some point in our past. That's the challenge for public safety, and that's the challenge for our downtown. I share with folks every day that if public safety is our most important priority, downtown is our most urgent priority. Downtown is the economic and cultural center of our city. We rely on our downtown for jobs, for cultural events and attractions, and for contributions to sustain our citywide tax base. The pandemic disrupted every downtown across the globe, but it also unearthed very specific realities in our downtown that prove one thing. We can't simply strive to return to what was. Our future depends on building, on moving forward. I remember when Mayor Coleman was still mayor, and he started us thinking about downtown, not just as a business district, not just as a place with offices and stores, but as a residential neighborhood. That shift in thinking must continue, and we must push it forward. As we look at the cities, the downtowns that thrived most through the pandemic, they're the ones who have been most aggressive for the longest time about thinking of downtown, again, as a neighborhood, as a place of housing. And as we think about our downtown, one of our greatest opportunities for downtown is housing. And in truth, the next priority I'm going to share with you is housing. And one of our greatest opportunities for housing in our city is downtown. These two goals work hand in hand. That's why we worked with our city council earlier this year to amend our rent stabilization ordinance to exclude new construction. That change is critical to adding the housing that we need citywide. And it's already working. Buildings are selling, Highland Bridge is moving, and our momentum is building. That momentum is clear. We've seen more major investment activity downtown in the last 2 years than in the last 2 decades. Building purchases, projects in motion, and new commitments that signal real progress. The Landmark Tower conversion delivered 175 new apartments. The Stella will add 178 more early next year. Pedro Park opens today, 20 years in the making. And yesterday we stood with the Minnesota Wild and the Mille Lacs Band of Ojibwe to unveil the logo for our new Grand Casino Arena downtown. We currently have over $1 billion in projects in the pipeline downtown, including the Robert Street reconstruction, that Pedro Park development that I just shared with you, and all of those buildings underway. Downtown crime is falling, robberies down 33%, thefts down 18%, burglaries down 15%, weapons violations down double digits, thanks to our downtown improvement district, our ambassadors, our cameras, our patrols, our private sector partners, this big team of folks we have working together downtown. I want to say thank you. Joe Spencer is here. It's great to see you. Dave Higgins is here. It's great to see you. Thank you for your work and your leadership. When I was elected mayor, we were the largest city in America to not have an organization like our Downtown Alliance. I cannot imagine having come through, particularly these last 5 years, without your work, without your leadership. Thank you very much. These are incredible signs of life and investment all over our downtown. A new park, repaved streets, new transit, public and private projects bringing buildings back to life, businesses opening doors, and events filling our streets. From the Yacht Club Music Festival to the World Juniors Hockey Championship, the proof points are clear. Our downtown is on the way up, and we're just getting started. Downtown is home to some of the biggest development opportunities that we have in our city's history. At Central Station, along River's Edge, and through the full renovation of the Grand Casino Arena. Capitalizing on these projects will reshape our skyline, reconnect us to the river, and drive investment and activity for generations to come. Our next task is to carry this momentum forward, to build more houses, attract more businesses, cut red tape, and create a downtown where people don't just come to work, but they choose to gather, to live, to play, and to belong. Our budget invests $10 million in housing, starting downtown. $5 million for office to housing conversions, $1 million through our commercial corridors fund to support local businesses. We're adding principal planners to help facilitate downtown and to help work and process all of the permits and inspections that we need to continue to carry this work forward. Our bold goal, 20,000 new residents downtown. Because downtown isn't just a job center, it's a neighborhood. That bold goal cannot be achieved without building more housing. Housing is not just a want. It's not something that's nice to have. All of my best days in my entire life started at home. Many of us wake up in a home and we have the opportunity to take for granted the ability to have a safe, stable, nurturing, affordable, sustainable home. It's not a want, it's a need. It's a basic human right and a core infrastructure, just as essential to our community's survival as schools, streets, and sewers. Housing underpins everything else: our economy, our safety, our health, and our climate goals. That's why housing must be a citywide priority, and it's why this budget backs those values with action. We're using every tool we have: our policies, our processes, and our purse to help create more homes in St. Paul. Whether you are ready to convert an empty office building tower to housing, renovate an older building, or add an accessory dwelling unit in your backyard, the city wants to help, and we welcome your investment. This budget meets that moment with a comprehensive housing package. It funds subsidies to convert vacant offices into new housing downtown, tackling the opportunity created by shifting work patterns since the pandemic. It provides pre-approved building plans for accessory dwelling units and helps cover the costs of extending utilities to those new units, making it easier and more affordable for families to add housing in their own backyards. And it accelerates the launch of Pauli, our new permitting and licensing platform. For the first time, residents and businesses will be able to apply for permits, check their status, make payments, and even complete some inspections online through our remote virtual inspections tool. These interventions are designed to make the building process easier, faster, and more cost efficient, and they will be crucial to welcoming new housing and economic development and building downtown and across the city. Our goal is to build as much housing as we can, as fast as we can possibly, for the future of our city. These investments connect the big picture with the small, fueling growth, whether you're building a tower or adding a backyard home. A year ago, we adopted our all-in housing framework, a comprehensive strategy to expand affordable housing, protect tenants, and modernize production. We've made smart updates to rent stabilization that reignited stalled projects, brought clarity for developers, and ensured ongoing affordability for renters. We passed long overdue tenant protections, including fair screening, limits on security deposits, just cause eviction standards, and guardrails on rent increases. We've sustained and expanded direct investments in family stability. Downtown assistance expanded to $2 million annually. Our inheritance fund sustained at $1 million and expanded to include descendants of the West Side flats. And we've added emergency rental assistance at $1 million annually. Those investments are critical, not just to our city at large, but to the families, to the students, to the folks working every day to make this city the incredible place that it is. Those shifting work patterns that I've talked about from the pandemic have changed the work patterns across the globe and left 1/3 of our offices downtown empty. By contrast, when we build housing in our downtown, over 92% of those units are occupied. This represents a generational opportunity to turn old offices into new housing, because there just simply aren't enough units for everyone who wants to stay. I share this with folks all the time. Every time you hear the phrase housing crisis, we should just hear the words, we have more people than units. We must build more housing. It's why we're pushing. It's why we're doing the work that we are. All along the way, what I've been trying to share with you is that we have new challenges to face. We have new challenges where safety are concerned. We have new challenges where housing are concerned. We have new challenges where our downtown is concerned. That's why we're setting these bold goals. That's why we need more residents downtown. We've already seen what's possible in some of the projects that we've already opened, from the Landmark Tower to the former Ecolab headquarters at the Stella. With our partners at the Downtown Alliance, we've identified 10 more buildings ready for conversion, unlocking nearly 4,000 new units. That includes even our own City Hall annex that has housed city employees since the mid-'70s, to look at that and study it to be a conversion, to be housing in the future. That strategy gives us the opportunity to do two things. One, add housing downtown as we need, but also two, to be able to strategically place city employees as anchor tenants to help continue facilitating development downtown. But we know that policy only works when matched by community leadership and collective action. Last September, we welcomed the Jimmy and Rosalind Carter work project at the Heights, where 100, or as I like to just call it, the Carter Work Project, where 147 homes were built with Habitat for Humanity, the largest habitat build in Twin Cities history. Mayor Coleman, I want to thank you for your leadership of Habitat for Humanity's Twin Cities and your leadership to bring that Super Bowl of housing construction right here to the city of St. Paul. The Heights itself, we're adding 1,000 affordable homes. And it's not just about expanding supply, it's about building climate resilient, opportunity-rich neighborhoods that set the standard for our future. As we talk about the new threats that we must face, that we're faced with, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the event that ended up resulting in us doing this speech, which we usually do in August, this year in September. The cyber attack. Just at the end of July, as we think about carrying our city into the future. In July, our cybersecurity teams at our city, led by our Chief Information Officer, Jamie Wascalis, faced a defining test, one that proved the power of early investment and having the right people at the right time. A coordinated and sophisticated criminal threat actor launched a cyber attack against our digital infrastructure. In response, the city of St. Paul activated a strong strategic defense, mobilizing experts, protecting critical systems, and accelerating recovery through trusted partnerships and decisive action. From those first hours on July 25th, we focused on two priorities: ensuring uninterrupted delivery of core city services like 911 response and payroll, and two, directly responding to the attack on our systems. Last week, we shared our response with the Legislative Committee on Cybersecurity, highlighting Operation Secure St. Paul, a 4-day reset of every single employee password and credential. I think all of the city employees in this room will vouch that they came through that process with the absolute longest password that they've ever had. Director Wascalis told me to think of it as a passphrase. I've also heard the phrase pass poem in the last several weeks. From resetting all those passwords to installing new cybersecurity software on all of our devices across the city, to combing through the forensics on every single server and system that our city hosts, our team launched and executed an incredible operation seemingly overnight. Roy Wilkins Auditorium became a secure IT operations hub. Every laptop was re-credentialed. Every system was upgraded. Every employee was verified. City employees designed the process, built network connections literally from scratch, and created technology platforms that safely checked in staff, confirmed identities, and issued temporary access. At peak times, 180 employees per hour moved through that system, guided by more than 70 colleagues across intake, troubleshooting, and security stations. And they did it all under extraordinary conditions. I have to tell you, it was an incredible lift, partnered and powered by the heroic efforts of our city staff. Partners like the Minnesota National Guard Cyber Protection Team, our federal agencies, and local resources added capacity, and our team, St. Paul, carried weight and delivered peace of mind for our colleagues and for the residents we serve. I want to thank Mary Gleick Matthews, who ran that Operation Secure St. Paul. We appreciate your work. Let me tell you, our teams literally worked 24/7, worked around the clock to keep our systems secure, worked around the clock to ensure. I've said before, and I sort of misspoke, I said before that our teams had 1 week. I mean, we all do jobs. We can all imagine if we came to work tomorrow and all of a sudden all of those systems, those computers that we rely on, were suddenly pulled from us. We realized really early on that the biggest threat, for example, to 911 services wasn't a hacker taking down our 911 services. It was the threat of missing payroll. And that wasn't an option for us. Our teams, it's not that our teams had a week to run the payroll manually. It's that our team had 1 week to figure out how to run our payroll manually and run the payroll manually. That's really incredible. And I also want to brag very specifically. That cyber security protection team at the National Guard that I just thanked exists today in large part because of the work of Major General Steph Horvath, who now serves as the city's Chief Information Security Officer, whose leadership literally helped write the book to respond to a crisis like that. We're fortunate and lucky to have you. Thank you for your service. The scale and speed and professionalism of our response showed just how critical this effort was in restoring services and how deeply committed we remain to protecting our employees and residents. This budget invests $1 million to finish the job, restoring systems with stronger safeguards, expanding proactive cybersecurity defenses, doubling down on secure, transparent service delivery, and acting to protect the employees who may have had data released in that breach. We have brought online, and I know many of you have seen that, 1 full year of identity theft protection and cybersecurity monitoring for every single city employee to make sure that we are helping the helpers in our community. We're well on our way to full recovery, and we'll share a full after analysis once forensic investigations conclude. In crisis, our teams adapted, we learned, and we came back stronger. This budget turns that resilience into momentum. We're launching a new employee service portal to streamline support and keep business moving. We're automating digital requests to increase efficiency and reduce delays, and we're completing the secure restoration of our city systems while accelerating modernization. The cyber attack is an example of a brand new threat that we face. But sadly, all of the threats that we face aren't new. There are some that are old. There's some that are too old. This morning, just before we came here, Sakina and I went to drop off Amila, our COVID baby. You all know her from the Zoom meetings. We dropped her off at kindergarten this morning for her first day at school. It was exciting. It was joyous. And as we looked around at all those parents, one of the teachers said, "It seems like there's more parents crying than children crying." Our joy is seasoned by the taste of trauma, by the taste of crisis, by the taste of grief. Last week's horrific mass shooting at Annunciation Catholic School in Minneapolis injured 18 students and 3 school employees and stole the lives of 8-year-old Fletcher and 10-year-old Harper. Please join me in a moment of silence for Fletcher, Harper, their families, friends, neighbors, and our entire community. Thank you. We owe Fletcher and Harper and everyone impacted by this tragedy so much more than silence. This must be our last moment of silence on their behalf. From now on, let's get loud enough that no parent, no teacher, no child ever has to face that terror again. We've called on Congress to act, but they haven't. We've called on our state legislature to act, or at the very least, lift the preemption so that cities can act ourselves to keep our children, to keep our families safe, but they haven't. The point is that everyone must do something, and that includes us. We cannot afford to sit and wait and hope and pray and think until the day our legislature or our Congress finally decides to change. We must all do something, and that includes us. From climate crisis to immigration, to so many other things, we have seen cities act when our federal and state governments are not able or ready to do so. We've seen cities lead and push us forward from the ground level up. That's why, working hand in hand with the members of our city council, we are moving forward in St. Paul on 4 common sense protections. I've asked the city council, well, it wasn't a tough sell. We're going to work together to pass a city ordinance that includes 4 simple common sense protections that bans the public possession of assault weapons, that bans binary triggers, that bans guns in recreation centers and libraries, and that requires every firearm to have a serial number. Those 4 simple steps, banning the public possession of assault rifles, banning binary triggers that turn handguns into machine guns, banning guns in libraries and rec centers, and requiring every gun to have a serial number, have 2 things in common. 1, they're supported by the overwhelming majority of Minnesotans. And 2, they are banned as unenforceable by state law. They are supported by the overwhelming majority of Minnesotans, and they are banned by state law. We know that when we pass that ordinance, that we won't even be able to enforce it. We've asked our state legislature if they can't pass a ban, if they can't pass those laws, to at least lift the preemption so that we can. If that ever happens, that lifting of that preemption won't be the time for us to start thinking, start drafting, start having public hearings, start considering. Moving early on an ordinance will make it such that if a state preemption lifts at midnight, our city ordinance will take effect at 12:01. But more importantly, we have to have a conversation about those 2 things I just said. These are common sense protections that the vast majority of Minnesotans overwhelmingly agree on and that our state law bans. We have to have a conversation about that. We will continue to engage with other cities across Minnesota so that if our federal government and our state government aren't yet ready to take action we need, our cities will step forward. Our mayors will step forward. Our city councils will step forward to force that statewide conversation we have to have about finally taking decisive action to prevent gun violence in our communities. As I present this budget, as I present this plan, I do so with great gratitude for how far we've come as a community and for the opportunity that we have to keep on building a city that works for all of us. This is a budget. This is a plan that reflects who we are. We're a city that shows up. We show up for one another. We look out for one another. We don't hide from crisis in tough moments. Last week at Annunciation, 7 and 8 and 9-year-olds knew that in an emergency they had to act. They had to move. They had to do something different. That's all we're asking our legislature to know. It's all we're asking our legislature to do is to follow the example of those young children who did anything and everything they could to figure out how to protect one another in the face of crisis. When people look at me and say, hey, I know this job is hard, they're right. But it is a blessing to serve as a mayor in a city that believes wholeheartedly in the promise of every neighbor, of every family, of every child, of every innovator. This is a budget that looks ahead, not just today, but to tomorrow. This is a budget that doesn't take the bait of thinking that our challenge is to get back to some place that our city used to be, but says we have to build forward together. It says everything we do in St. Paul must be together. You've heard that core belief of our administration, that decisions are made to benefit the decision maker. I tell folks all of the time that as proud as I am of what we've done over the last 8 years, I'm even prouder of how we've done it together. We've done it by engaging people. We've done it by coming together. That's why every member of my cabinet has been appointed through a community-based hiring process. It's why this budget, like every budget that I've ever proposed to the city council, has been built through our community-based budgeting process. It's why every major policy that we've brought forward has been brought, or initiative that we've brought forward has been built by community members working together. And it's why we so greatly value our district councils. Our district councils in our city are our infrastructure for public engagement. And they haven't received a meaningful new investment in our city for a really long time. This system is critical. It's how neighbors engage and plug in. And I want to say to the many members of our district councils here with us today, we see you, we value you, and you are vital to our shared prosperity. That's why I'm proposing an investment of $200,000 to strengthen our district councils, to support their critical work in tandem with City Hall, to help shape budgets, policies, our hiring processes, and opportunity with community voice at the table. It's the lived reality of a city that's always thrived when we've leaned on one another and we've lifted one another up. That's not our task as people who live in city together. That's our definition of people who live in city together. That definition comes from our staff who wake up every day to serve the people of St. Paul. It comes from our city council members, present and past, who have challenged us, worked with us, and helped shape bold ideas into tangible progress. It comes from community leaders, faith-based organizations, organizational partners, small business owners, educators, and neighbors who remind us daily that St. Paul's true strength doesn't come from City Hall. It comes from all of us together. It comes from the children in this city who remind us that everything we do must be in service to their future. Together, we have weathered crises that have tested us. A global pandemic, economic challenges, reckonings on justice, a cyber attack, mass shootings. But when St. Paul is tested, we don't retreat, we rise. We've been through that that crisis bingo. We've been through those challenges that have created a feeling of wintertime in our community. But we know how to strive through winter. We know how to dig each other out. And we know that given all of those indicators that we just talked about this morning, all of the opportunity that we have in Highland Bridge, in our Midway, in our downtown, on our east side, that it's springtime in St. Paul. I'm honored to serve alongside all of you, and I look forward to our work to water all of those incredible seeds that we have across our city and to watch them bloom and grow together. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for your time today, and thank you for your continued service to this city. We will fight on. Thank you.